A woman's life shatters when her pilot sister spots her husband on a business-class flight to Paris with another woman. A shocking mid-flight text ignites a spiral of betrayal, confrontation, and unexpected twists. What was supposed to be a routine flight turns into the moment everything changes. I still remember the exact moment my phone lit up that afternoon. The message was from my sister, Amelia. She's a commercial pilot, known for her calm voice and perfect judgment. She never texts during flights. Never. But that day, the message came through midair. He's here. And he's not alone. My heart skipped a beat. At first, I didn't understand what she meant.
He? Who was she talking about?
And then, like a slow, creeping wave, it hit me. She was flying the Paris route that day. And my husband, Daniel, had told me he was going on a business trip to Paris. I stared at the screen, frozen. The sound of the ticking clock in the living room suddenly grew louder, like every second was pushing me toward a truth I didn't want to face. Amelia never joked about things like this. If she said he was there, he was there. I called her immediately, but the call didn't connect. She was still in the cockpit, thousands of feet above the ground. My hands were trembling. Every worst-case scenario I'd ever imagined flashed through my mind like a film reel I couldn't pause. When Amelia finally landed, she called me before stepping off the plane. Her voice was steady, but I could feel the weight behind every word. "I saw him in business class," she said. And he wasn't alone. There was a woman sitting next to him. They looked close. My throat tightened. Close? How close? Enough that every flight attendant noticed. She replied quietly. He wasn't behaving like a man on a business trip. I felt the air leave my lungs. For months, Daniel had been distant. Late nights at work. Business dinners I wasn't invited to. Trips I wasn't part of. I had convinced myself it was stress. Deadlines. A temporary rough patch. But now, all those little red flags lined up like dominoes. And Amelia's words had just tipped the first one. I opened our shared calendar on my laptop. His flight details were there. Same airline. Same flight number. He had booked the ticket 2 weeks ago. I remembered how he'd kissed my forehead that morning, telling me not to wait up because his meetings would run late after he landed. I had believed him. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying Amelia's description in my head. A woman, sitting next to him, laughing with him. The image formed even though I hadn't seen it. And the worst part? Amelia had said they looked like a couple. By the next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit around wondering. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Daniel was supposed to be in Paris for 5 days. I told my assistant to book me the earliest flight out. As I packed my suitcase, I noticed something odd. In the drawer where Daniel kept his travel documents, there was a small envelope tucked beneath some papers. It wasn't hidden well, just enough that I might have missed it if I wasn't looking closely. Inside, there was a printed hotel reservation. Not under his name, but under hers. A woman named Sophia Bennett. The check-in date matched his arrival. And there were 2 guests on the reservation. My heart started pounding. It was no longer suspicion. It was evidence. Clear, undeniable evidence. Before I left for the airport, Amelia called again. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked softly. "I have to," I replied. "I can't live in the dark anymore." On the flight, I sat by the window, staring out as the clouds floated beneath us. My reflection stared back at me, a woman who, just days ago, believed in her marriage. Now, I was chasing the truth across continents. When I landed in Paris, the air was crisp, the sky painted in soft gray clouds. My taxi took me through elegant boulevards lined with old stone buildings, but none of it felt romantic. My chest was tight. Every passing minute brought me closer to the confrontation I wasn't sure I was ready for. I checked into a small boutique hotel near the address on the reservation. From my window, I could see the grand entrance of their luxury hotel just across the street. Guests arrived in sleek cars. Bellboys rushed to carry designer luggage, and the golden lights from the lobby cast warm glows on the cobblestone pavement. I waited. Hours passed. My hands grew cold around the coffee cup I'd ordered just to have something to hold. Then, Just as the evening lights flickered on, I saw him. Daniel, stepping out of a black car. His suit was perfectly pressed, his hair styled exactly the way I used to love. And next to him, her. She was tall, elegant, dressed in a long beige coat and heels that clicked sharply against the stones. They laughed together as they entered the hotel, her hand brushing against his arm like they'd done it 1,000 times before. I froze. There it was. The truth. Not whispered. Not suggested. Not imagined. Right there in front of me. I thought I'd cry. I thought I'd break down. But instead, a strange calm washed over me. Like my mind had shifted into a quiet, focused state. Every emotion I had was tucked behind a locked door, waiting. I took out my phone. My fingers hovered over Amelia's number. She deserved to know I'd seen it for myself. But before I could dial, something unexpected happened. A car pulled up in front of the hotel. A man stepped out, someone I didn't recognize. He walked briskly inside, checking his watch. There was something about the urgency in his walk that caught my attention. A gut instinct told me this wasn't over. That what I had just witnessed was only the beginning of a much bigger storm. I tightened my coat, stepped out of the cafe, and crossed the street. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as the hotel's glass doors slid open before me. The warm air inside smelled faintly of jasmine and polished wood. The concierge greeted me, but I barely heard him. All I could think was one thing. Tonight, I was going to find out everything. The lobby was warm and elegant, filled with soft golden light that reflected off marble floors. My heels clicked against the polished surface as I walked toward the reception desk, my mind sharp and focused. Daniel and the woman had disappeared into the elevator minutes ago. I didn't need to guess where they were going. The hotel reservation in my bag had already told me. Bonsoir, madame. The concierge greeted me with a professional smile. Do you have a reservation? I returned the smile faintly. Not yet, but I'd like a room on the same floor as Daniel Carter. His expression shifted slightly, cautious. I'm afraid I can't give out guest information, madam. Of course he couldn't. This wasn't a movie where receptionists casually spilled secrets, but I had come prepared. I pulled out my phone and showed him the reservation confirmation under the woman's name. I believe this is her booking, I said calmly. I'd like to stay near them. We're family. He hesitated, glanced at the screen, then nodded politely. One moment, please. Within minutes, I had my key. A room just 2 doors away from theirs. As the elevator carried me upward, my reflection stared back at me in the mirrored walls. My eyes looked different now, colder, more determined. I wasn't here to beg for answers. I was here to collect them. The hallway was silent when I stepped out. Plush carpets muted every sound. Their door was slightly down the corridor, and though I couldn't hear anything, I could feel the presence behind it. A part of me wanted to storm in, to tear the facade apart in one explosive moment. But another part, the quieter, sharper part, knew that patience would hurt more than fury. I entered my room, locked the door, and sat on the bed.
My phone buzzed again.
Amelia, are you there? She texted. Yes, I replied. They're in the hotel, 2 doors away. Do you want me to call him? Confront him? No, I typed back. This is my moment. I stood by the peephole for a long time, watching the empty hallway. Then, just after 10, I heard laughter. Soft, intimate laughter. Their door opened. Daniel stepped out first, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. The woman followed, her hand lightly resting on his back as they walked down the hall toward the elevator. I waited 30 seconds, then followed silently. Paris at night is breathtaking. The streets glowed under warm lamps, cafes buzzed with soft chatter, and car lights reflected off wet cobblestones. I trailed them at a careful distance, my coat pulled tight against the cool air. They didn't notice me. They were too wrapped up in their own world, leaning close, sharing whispers, stopping occasionally to laugh at something only they understood. They finally entered a small, candlelit restaurant tucked between 2 galleries. Through the large glass windows, I watched them being led to a table in the corner. Daniel reached for her hand across the table. She didn't pull away. My stomach twisted. I slipped inside, and asked for a table at the back. From where I sat, I could see everything without being seen. It felt surreal, watching my husband flirt openly with another woman in a foreign city. The man who once promised me forever was sitting across from someone else, giving her the smile that used to be mine. The waiter brought me water, but I didn't touch it. My eyes never left them. At one point, Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen and let it ring. I knew it was me. I'd called before leaving the hotel to see if he'd lie. He had texted earlier, saying he was tired after meetings and needed rest. Now he was here, laughing under soft lights with her. I snapped a photo quietly. Not for revenge, for proof. They stayed for over an hour. When they left, I followed again. They strolled through the quiet streets like lovers, stopping at a bridge overlooking the river. He put his arm around her. She leaned into him. For a moment, it looked like a scene from a romantic film, except I was the one watching from the shadows. Then something unexpected happened. The same man I'd noticed earlier outside the hotel appeared again. He was dressed sharply, carrying a slim leather briefcase. He approached them briskly. Daniel's entire demeanor changed the moment he saw him. The easy smile vanished. He straightened, stiffened, and exchanged quick words with the man. The woman looked confused. The man handed Daniel an envelope. Daniel glanced around nervously before slipping it inside his jacket. Then, without another word, the man disappeared down the street. I froze. This wasn't part of the betrayal script I'd imagined. What was in that envelope? And why did Daniel look so unsettled receiving it? They returned to the hotel shortly after. I waited until they were safely inside before heading back to my room. My mind was racing. This wasn't just infidelity. There was something else happening, something Daniel hadn't told me. I sat by the window, looking out at the Paris skyline. For years, I had known Daniel as predictable, methodical, careful. The man I'd followed tonight was none of those things. He was secretive, reckless.
Different. My phone rang. Amelia again.
This time, I answered. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "I followed them," I whispered. Dinner. Laughter. And then a man showed up. Gave him an envelope. He looked scared. "Do you think it's business?" "No," I said firmly. "This isn't how Daniel acts during business trips. Something's off. I can feel it." "What are you going to do?" I looked across at their room. Light spilled out from under the door. My pulse quickened. "I'm going to find out what's inside that envelope." Amelia was silent for a moment. Then she said quietly, "Be careful. Whatever this is, it's bigger than you think." As I hung up, a plan formed in my mind. It wasn't safe. It wasn't rational. But the truth was within reach, and I couldn't walk away now. I grabbed my keycard and stepped into the hallway. Their room was silent. I crouched near the door, listening. Muffled voices, a television playing softly. I glanced at the security camera in the corner. It was angled away, covering only the elevator entrance. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I really about to do this? But then I remembered the look on Daniel's face when he took that envelope. The woman's hand on his arm. The lies he'd told me so effortlessly. Yes, I was. I slid a thin card between the door and the frame, just enough to test the lock. Old hotel doors had their weaknesses. This one wasn't new. With a careful twist, it clicked slightly. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was the moment everything could change.